Mr. President, thank you for this very insightful speech, and I'm happy to be here with our partner, Bob Moritz, and I see many distinguished partners of the World Economic Forum here in the room. Thank you for being with us today. Distinguished participants, when we look at the future of the world, we are not just confronted with a crisis. We are confronted, as it was also inherent in the speech of the Mr. President, we are confronted with a deep structural and systemic transformation of the world, which will preoccupy us not just as usually a crisis is doing for some months or maybe a year. No, it will be with us for several years, and it will have deep repercussions. Let me just describe to you maybe 4 factors which drive the economic transformation of the world. The first one, of course, is climate change and the need for energy transformation. We need, according to the International Energy Agency, we need to invest $4 trillion, which corresponds to about 4% of global GDP by 2030. Of course, short term, it's a burden, it's an investment. Long term, I see great opportunities coming out of it. Second driver of global transformation, of course, is the reshaping of our supply chains, the reshoring, based on creating more political resilience, and of course, the post-COVID factor. The third transformative force is certainly the need to internalize external costs. Just think of plastics. 10 billion tons of plastics floating into our oceans. And I'm very happy that on the occasion of the G20, the World Economic Forum, in cooperation with the G20 presidency, established the O20, which means a platform to integrate all efforts to create a blue Asian economy and to safeguard this very important resource of humankind. And I just want to mention some of the other risks into which we have to invest and where no action is certainly much more expensive than action. Just take cybersecurity. Just take the whole adaptation efforts. So what does it mean? It means a burden on our GDP, because those are costs or investments into a long-term future. Now, when you are a company and you have restructuring costs, you write them off in your balance sheet, and of course it's the shareholders who suffer. But if you look at the global economy, the effect will be a reduction of purchasing power. And that's the reason why this economic restructuring will lead in many countries to quite some social tensions. Now let me go to the second part. What does it mean for business people in order to succeed? The cards are redistributed. And at the end of this transformation process, there will be winners and losers. Now, in order to be a winner and talking to the business community, I think there are 4 different dimensions you have to embrace. The first one, of course, is to embrace the 4th Industrial Revolution. I have written 5 years ago a book on the 4th Industrial Revolution, and I coined maybe this expression. This revolution is different from the 3 previous ones. It's a scope. It's not just one technology. It's multiple technologies reinforcing each another. It's a speed. It's exponential. And it's particularly also the fact that the winner takes it all. So there's a tendency that the winner takes it all, because you cannot easily copy. You can copy a steam machine, or you can copy maybe a computer, but to copy artificial intelligence or the application of artificial intelligence in what you are doing is much more challenging. So if you embrace the fourth industrial revolution, it means to be at the forefront. You cannot lag behind anymore. Just to give you an example, even for my own organization, the World Economic Forum, I have to think in terms of the future. So we are establishing now what we call the Global Collaboration Village, which will be the first purpose-oriented, public goods-oriented application of metaverse, which means how can the world improve cooperation by using metaverse technologies. So it's embracing the fourth industrial revolution. Second, it's embracing strategic thinking. Since it is not a crisis where we have to look out for simple answers to very complex, that's usually the tendency how you solve a crisis, by applying simple answers to very complex situations. No, here we have to take also a systemic view. We have to connect the dots. Just look at nature and climate. It's not enough just to decarbonize companies. We have to look at nature-based solutions. We have to look at changes of lifestyle. We have to look at innovation and so on. So all those different activities are part of a systemic approach. And if I speak a systemic approach from a business point of view, it should be always opportunity-oriented. And I see great opportunities coming out of this transformation process. Now, the third recommendation, and Mr. President, you mentioned it, it's embrace public-private cooperation. Some people would say until the beginning of COVID, it was business who was the driving force. Then it has become governments. No, the solution for the future is that governments brings their coordinating capabilities to the table, and business, its innovative capacity, and combined, this will create the winners. And finally, the last, and here I may mention, I will come back to one point you emphasized, Mr. President. It's a complementarity of regional and global efforts. The World Economic Forum has become now the international organization, as you mentioned, for public-private cooperation. We welcome very much those regional efforts, but ultimately they have to be integrated into a platform where global business leaders, governments, and regional business leaders and governments work together, because we need global solutions if we talk about the environment and many other of the challenges. Now, last, to conclude, is I saw the motto, rebuild trust. The business community, in order to build trust, has to adhere to what I call stakeholder capitalism, which means to work not only for profit, but to work for the people, for society, and the planet. I call it the 3P, economic progress, people, and planet. And here, key is walking the talk. It's not enough to talk about ESGs and to make big declarations, but Bob, we have worked very closely together in the forum to create metrics, how to measure ESGs, to make business accountable for a social role, an environmental role, which is a strong force for good and not just for economic progress, because business is part of society and will have the trust of society if it serves society. So, to conclude, if we embrace the notion of transformation, the notion of innovation, and particularly the notion of collaboration and cooperation, I think this transformation period will lead us into a much brighter future. It will, as we say in the forum, improve the state of the world. Thank you.